Welcome to Democracy-ish. I'm Danielle Moody.
And I'm Wajat Ali, and Danielle began this conversation by, in the nicest way, saying, Waj, why do you look like crap?
And no, I said, have you been sleeping?
Exactly. In the nicest way, she goes, have you been sleeping? It looks like you haven't. And then the answer is no, Danielle. I haven't slept in 10 years. But it's okay. Who needs sleep? You know, we're only worried about our collapsing democracy and civilization and the rise of fascism. But there is some good news, Danielle, and I think we have to hold on to the good news, like a friggin' raft in the water. You know,
Titanic. Mm-hmm.
The one on Titanic, but like Rose, not Leo, because he died. And I do think there was space. She just scooted her booty a little bit to the left.
Everybody knows that there was space.
Yeah, I've seen him many times, and I'm like, you know, has she just moved a little bit? Right. But you know, that's why we don't trust white women in this country.
Oh shit!
Some of my favorite friends are moderate white women, especially the democracy-ish followers. Come on now, all know.
I will say this: the democracy-ish followers, the white women, they are not moderate. They're dope. They are down progressives.
They are dope. And each time we criticize like white women racism, they're like, yes. Yep. I'm like, well done. So this is the moment, right, where everything's bad. There's been generational damage, Danielle. It's all pathetic. This could have been avoided. Yeah. We have a vulgarian criminal president who hung out with a pedophile. But some good news is that for the first time in 10 years, there is a kryptonite, a weakness. It wasn't the insurrection. It wasn't his corruption. It wasn't tanking the economy. It wasn't sexually assaulting E. Jean Carroll. It just so happens that the one thing most Americans can agree on, especially right now, is that they want to know more about the Epstein files, 80% of Americans. And Danielle, one good news is a majority of Americans across political aisles do not like wealthy billionaire pedophiles who get away with sexually abusing young girls, and they want to get the bottom of it. And with that, I give it to you to talk about the news that came out last night, because Rupert Murdoch, I think I said he was sharpening the knives. Edit. Those knives are sharpened, Danielle, and he's stabbing. He's a stabby Rupert Murdoch.
I'm kind of curious as to what has happened. You know, and here's the thing, like we talked about on Andor with our Andor season 2 analysis, which folks is up now on both of our Substacks. But when we talked about it, you said no one is safe in fascism.
Yeah.
Because who you thought was like your colleague, who you thought was like the soldier on the line with you, eventually will turn on you when it comes to saving themselves, right? Yep. Like there's no loyalty. And you see that play out right now, where Rupert Murdoch has been in the tank for Donald Trump for the last 10 years.
Yep.
But what we are seeing are these fissures that are coming. And so here we go. First, we start out with the New York Times. The New York Times reports, they're reporting what the Wall Street Journal, Rupert Murdoch's Wall Street Journal put out. Trump's name is on contributor lists for Epstein birthday book. The Times also reviewed other records of the president's friendship with Jeffrey Epstein, including an inscription in which he called Jeffrey Epstein the greatest. So I will go on to read. Waj, just turn down your a little bit. So Trump's name appeared on a contributor list for the book celebrating the 50th birthday of the disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein, that he participated in the collection, even as he denied that he signed a sexually suggestive note and drawing. And remember, he said, I don't draw. And then everyone came with the receipts of all the drawings that he's done that have gone up to auction. Trump's name is listed among dozens of Epstein's acquaintances who were asked to contribute birthday messages for a leather-bound book in 2003. The list reviewed by the New York Times includes well-known Epstein associates Leslie H. Wexner, then the owner of Victoria's Secret, and other retailers, Alan Greenberg, who ran the doomed Wall Street firm Bear Stearns, and the physicist Murray Gell-Mann. Mr. Greenberg and Gell-Mann both have since died. Lucky them. The Times also reviewed an introductory letter to the book, which was handwritten by Ghislaine Maxwell, a longtime associate, the only person serving 20 years in federal prison. This is the Wall Street Journal. Okay. Jeffrey Epstein's birthday book included letters from Bill Clinton and Leon Black. The Wall Street Journal has started to run the names, right? And for me, Waj, I said, and you have said the same thing, I don't care if Democrats are on this list. Run the fucking names. We need to know who is who and who was down and who wasn't. So Bill Clinton, you see here with Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, looks like it's during his presidency. So this is in the 90s. This is what Bill Clinton wrote in the 2003 book. It's reassuring, isn't it, to have lasted as long across all the years of learning and knowing, adventures and illegible word, and also to have your childlike curiosity, the drive to make a difference, and the solace of friends. When I hear the childlike curiosity part, I want to vomit. So a spokesman for Clinton declined to comment on the birthday message, which was reviewed by the Journal. He referred the Journal to a previous statement that the former president had cut off ties more than a decade before Epstein was arrested in 2019 and didn't know about Epstein's alleged crimes. The former president was among 6 people, including Donald Trump, Wall Street billionaire Leon Black, fashion designer Vera Wang, and media owner Mort Zuckerman, who ended up with letters in the 2003 book, according to documents reviewed by the Wall Street Journal. Waj?
So 2 things. Number one, remember we brought up Nancy Pelosi last week, her interesting appearance on MSNBC with Chris Jansen, where she said, we should get back to the kitchen table issues. Even though this was a widening crack in MAGA, a kryptonite for Donald Trump. And we're like, that's interesting. Why would Nancy Pelosi, who is a smooth and skilled operator, say that to switch away from something that has literally helped the Democrats for the first time land like a blow on Donald Trump? And a part of me was always saying, well, maybe it's outdated Nancy in the sense that she's fighting a 21st century war with 20th century tactics. But honestly, Danielle, my heart of hearts, I was like, she's trying to protect people. And I believe, and I could be wrong, who knows? I'm just looking at the evidence in front of me. Mm-hmm. She's probably trying to protect Bill Clinton's legacy. And she's probably trying to protect a whole bunch of other Democrats who are in that list, because it's philanthropists, allegedly, celebrities, politicians. You and I agree that I don't give an F who is in that list. If that name is investigated and it is shown that they are complicit with Jeffrey Epstein in either covering up and or aiding him in the abuse of children, F them all to hell. I don't care. If it's my favorite celebrity, I don't care, right? This is an establishment problem. And you're seeing Nancy Pelosi, I think, run cover for Clinton. And that photo with Clinton, bro, yeah, you broke ties with Epstein more than 10 years ago. Everybody knew what Epstein was about. Donald Trump in 2003 openly said, yeah, he likes to party with young girls. So why were you partying with him? There's photos of Bill Clinton on the plane with Epstein. So I would not be surprised, folks, if you love Bill Clinton, if you love Democrats, that this dude knew what was happening, because we all knew what was happening. And so, yeah, he cut ties with them in 10 years. Okay, so 2008, everyone knew. Why were you still like...
You know what I find so interesting, too? Because you would like to think that these people aren't dummies, right? So if we're saying, yes, he and others and everybody around, much in the same way like Diddy, right? People knew what was happening. People knew that he was a domestic abuser, all of these things. And you continue to do it. I'm thinking to myself, if I'm being asked to put my fucking name down in a letter, you know what I'm saying? Nah, I'm good. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's this, you know that pictures are out there. Pictures can be explained away. But a letter, right, that it's talking about how amazing and a childlike curiosity and you're the greatest and all of these things, that shows a level of intimacy. You can be at a party with a bunch of other people and people are snapping pictures and again, explain that away. The letters in a 2003 book that is for his 50th birthday shows intimacy, an intimate relationship that you had, that you felt compelled to include this letter. It wasn't a Hallmark fucking card that they put. It was a leather bound book that he could have, quote unquote, forever. Why would you have yourself in that sphere and incriminated in that kind of way? Makes no sense to me with people that are supposed to have sense.
It's because it's a big club and you ain't in it. The rich, the super wealthy rich, the people who are in that book, folks, it is a very incestuous ecosystem. Everyone knows everyone, which makes it that much more implausible to me, Danielle, that Bill Clinton and anyone else in 2008, 2009, all these other people like Gates and Pinker, Steve Pinker, you know, that Harvard scientist that Epstein loved, all these names. Oh, we didn't know. Everyone knew. Everyone knew. Everyone was talking about it. There was whispers, right? It doesn't mean that you participated in it, but you knew that Jeffrey Epstein had this reputation, right? The elite of the elites, Myra, you're right. And so another name there, and you know, I was looking at these names that came out yesterday. Mm-hmm. There's a name that I tweeted, and that tweet went viral. Leslie Wexner, and you mentioned Wexner. Yep. Wexner is the CEO of Victoria's Secret. Yep. Wexner is still alive, folks. Look, I'm not into conspiracy theories, but the more and more I kind of refurbish my understanding of the Epstein files, the more and more I'm like, And let me just give some facts. Some of the names are in this list that were released yesterday. Leslie Wexner, billionaire, hardcore pro-Israel Zionist, right? Smart man. Leslie Wexner gives his power of attorney to who? Jeffrey Epstein, a college dropout. Leslie Wexner allows Jeffrey Epstein almost complete control over his finances. The $77 million penthouse in New York that Jeffrey Epstein lived in, right? The creme de la creme, the jewel penthouse of New York City. Do you know who owned that? Who? Leslie Wexner. Guess how much he sold Jeffrey Epstein his $77 million townhouse for?
How much?
0. Gifted it. So I'm asking y'all, why would Leslie Wexner, an extremely intelligent man, a multi-billionaire, just one day go and give Jeffrey Epstein power of attorney and then gift a $77 million townhouse to him for $0? Let me take it back. Epstein is a college dropout. Epstein gets recruited by Bill Barr's father to be a teacher in a prestigious private school in New York, despite having any credentials.
Oh, yes, I remember this. Yes.
Over a year, multiple stories and accusations of Jeffrey Epstein behaving inappropriately with young girls. So he gets fired. It should be the end of Jeffrey Epstein. No college degree. Literally, you're not qualified for this job. Somehow Bill Barr's dad came and picked you up. You're teaching these kids. You're kind of harassing these young girls. Guess what? Gets a cushy job at Bear Stearns and Wall Street. No discernible talent, right? Alan Greenberg brought him on, and Alan Greenberg's kids were there in that same prep school, right? So now he's in Bear Stearns, hobnobbing with all these folks, right? Works with one man whose name I'm forgetting, who was convicted of running one of the largest Ponzi schemes at the time. The person who was his partner was Jeffrey Epstein. That guy goes to jail. Epstein doesn't, right? Epstein apparently flips on him. Epstein doesn't go to jail, but then Epstein afterwards somehow gets to manage friggin' Leslie Wexner's entire life with power of attorney. Nobody knows.
So let me ask you this: Leslie Wexner don't have no kids. Wasn't ever married. Has
Leslie
no
Wexner
family whatsoever.
Everyone okay. These are the stories. Some stories say that Leslie Wexner on the DL is gay. Some people have said that. Other people have said that Epstein might have been his boyfriend or like interested with him. But the story is that apparently the only explanation is that Epstein had compromising information over Wexner and blackmailed him. So they're like, it's either he was gay or is gay, or he was into young girls or young boys.
$77 million fucking townhome in Manhattan. And the fee that you paid for that was zero? Oh, that was paid for. That was paid for. Wow.
And also Leon Black is in it. Leon Black, Apollo Global Management, huge billionaire. Like, bro, like what? Like, why are all these titans giving their wealth and or their connections to a man who, again,
because
folks,
they've been blackmailed. Because they've been blackmailed. And Senator Ron Wyden, what did he say? Follow the money. If you follow the money, you will get to the core of the core. It is not it. You tell me there's no client list. This man had the most powerful, wealthy men in the world involved in his sex trafficking ring, a multi-billion-dollar sex trafficking ring. This was not a low-level fucking pimp on the corner, right? This is a multi-billion-dollar ring. So of course you have blackmail information. I am certain there was video, pictures, receipts, all of these things that Ghislaine Maxwell kept, that Jeffrey Epstein kept, absolutely pristine. And if you don't sign away your power of attorney, if you don't sign away this, this townhome, I'm going public.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Nothing else makes, and not only that, folks.
Here's the thing. I'll just say this, Watch. But this is the thing that, again, you think that these people are smart and then you realize that they're fucking stupid. Because Jeffrey Epstein blackmailing and saying that I'm going to go public would be to incriminate himself. Unless, of course, you had some journalists and rags in your pocket that you were going to leak things to in a way that wouldn't come back to you. Because you're not going public to like the police. You're not doing it public in that way. You're going to do it in a way where maybe it ends up in the National Enquirer and it's enough to get people circulating and talking about you and then ruin your character. And,
I think I was talking to Vicky Ward. It was Vicky Ward yesterday, investigative journalist, who told me what some other folks said in these circles is that when rich people lose their money, when like the F you, F me money type rich people lose their money or get swindled, they don't go to the investigators. They don't go to law enforcement. They keep it in-house. Because they don't want people digging. So this guy has a history of fraud. Apparently he was talented at tax evasion, right? He gave these rich people counsel on how to hide their wealth. But I don't see it. I see it as a man who somehow was able to get into the circles of the most powerful, lure them with honey traps, meaning, sex with underage women. I don't even call them women. They were just girls, folks. And then got compromised. Because, folks, really think about it. Wexner is still alive. Leslie Wexner is still alive. I would love to ask Leslie Wexner, why did you gift a $77 million townhouse to Jeffrey Epstein? Wexner, why did you, and you still have your mental capacity several years ago, give your entire power of attorney to Jeffrey Epstein? Why were you perfectly comfortable with Jeffrey Epstein, whom you were told completely fabricated his background, to have any dealings with your financial empire? Leon Black, why were you interested in this? Bill Barr, what about your dad? Why did your dad find him? And this is where, at first when I heard this, I'm like, I don't like conspiracy theories. Ghislaine Maxwell's father was a spy. And Ghislaine Maxwell's father died under mysterious circumstances. And Ghislaine Maxwell's father, Danielle, was also a crook. And when Ghislaine Maxwell's father died under mysterious circumstances, he fell off a boat, as it happens. The people who were able to take over a lot of those contacts and assets were Epstein and Ghislaine. So when people say that follow the money, Wyden's been saying it. Lev Parnas told me this. Lev has said it now openly. Lev is like, look, I'm Jewish American. I try to be very careful about anti-Semitic conspiracy. But this is Lev. This is Lev talking about himself. Lev said, I'm Jewish American. I try to be careful because follow the money. And he's very convinced, and he's not the only one, that the money trail goes to both Russia and Israel, in the sense that Epstein doesn't necessarily have to be openly recruited, but he could have been used as an asset, as an influencer asset by foreign countries. And you saw Ehud Barak, former prime minister of Israel, former head of the IDF, have a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Photos of him showing up at that $77 million townhouse. It's one of those things where if you're a foreign government, I've said this before, and let me put it this way. If I'm the secret intelligence of any foreign government, and I know an individual has the goods on some of the wealthiest, most powerful people, I will do everything I can to ingratiate myself with that person, to extract that information, to hold it over those powerful people. That's what I'm saying.
Is it a conspiracy theory if it's all lining up and making sense? Is it a conspiracy theory?
Good point.
Because a conspiracy theory to me is, I have this idea and I don't know if it's plot. We know what people were associating with Jeffrey Epstein. The story that you just told about him being fired from the boarding school, the story about him getting a job at Bear Stearns, like, these are real things, right? Like, and so many people have said that he was intelligence, because how do you continue to run this type of sex trafficking ring for so long and not be caught? And I've said multiple times, because I believe some of the people on that list are CEOs of banks, right? Or they're the politicians that can go in and pull banks' credits and do X, Y, and Z. He had friends in powerful places, and he had these people. All of these people were knowingly and willingly caught up because they were getting something from him.
Yeah.
Right? And so is it a conspiracy theory if all of these things, like, there are all a list of facts that follow it? I don't think it's a conspiracy theory. And to that point,
can I say this though, real quick? Two things real quick, because Angie makes a really good point. I'm so glad I forgot it. It came Alexander Acosta, real quick, who was Trump's labor secretary. Before he was Trump's labor secretary, he was in Florida, where he was a prosecutor who gave Jeffrey Epstein the sweetheart deal, where he openly admits, yep, I'm a pedophile, I'm a sex offender, but then essentially gets to roam around for free, gets to report in only once a week, right? Acosta apparently said, when questioned, why did you give Epstein the sweetheart deal? Acosta has allegedly said, well, I was told that he is with intelligence, and we don't have the facts, whether it's American intelligence or foreign intelligence, but he was informed that essentially it was supposed to be soft gloves on Epstein because he was intelligence.
Okay. Okay. Well, this would explain then, while Donald Trump is in the midst of cracking up, as Rick Wilson so eloquently said, totally not cracking under the pressure of his crimes. Donald Trump went on yet another rant on his broke down social media platform, railing against the radical left. I'll turn it to Waj to offer his great impression, because I can't do it justice.
The radical left Democrats are doing everything in their power to distract and obfuscate from our great 6 months of service to America, results of which many are saying is the best 6 months in presidential history. They have gone absolutely crazy and are playing another Russia hoax, but this time under the guise of what we call the Jeffrey Epstein scam. As things are revealed, and I hope will take place quickly, you will see that this is yet another Democrat con job. Hopefully the grand jury files will put an end to this hoax. Everyone should see what is there, but people who are innocent should not be hurt. Make America great again.
Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Thank you for your attention to this matter.
And, as he talks about how great the last 6 months have been, how fantastic, how historic, but then here are your poll numbers that have you absolutely underwater. Trump's catering in polls continues, crushing new Gallup numbers. Overall approval, 37%.
Oof.
On immigration, 38%. On the economy, 37%. On trade, 36%. Federal budget, 29%. Overall, among independents, 29%. This is what we call a fucking disaster. And
Yep.
just to put it, in bold, he's only 6 months into his presidency. Any normal presidency would still be riding high on their election win. And Donald Trump, within 6 months, has just eaten away at any goodwill that he had on his very, very slim fucking victory. And now everyone is like, with their eyes and like, oh, what's happened here? Well, all of the things that Waj and I told you were going to happen over the last several years, but so when he says great, what do you think he's looking at?
Certainly not his penis size if you were to watch South Park. Sorry, had to go there. Certainly not these numbers, folks. This is a man who is aging. This is a man who is getting lazier. This is a man who ran simply to avoid spending the last years of his life in jail. This is a man who ran to grift for himself and his family. This is a man who has no fidelity to the Constitution, to the rule of law, to America or Americans. He was promised that if he gets elected and delivers some wins, that his base and the donors will be with him. The Supreme Court is with him. They're using him as an avatar. But going back to what you said, Danielle, I feel like Rupert Murdoch and others, right, they're losing their patience. And speaking about him being a useful avatar, I just want to remind folks, because we try to keep the receipts here on democracyish, all these people hated Donald Trump. 10 years ago, the Republican establishment tried their best to destroy him. But he was a bulldozer because he represented the ascendant Tea Party. He was actually anti the Republican establishment. Marco Rubio, Lindsey Graham, and Ted Cruz were some of the most vocal anti-Trumpers who openly said, Lindsey Graham said, if we elect them and we get destroyed, we have only us to blame. Now those three men compete with each other to see who can reside in the inner recesses of Donald Trump's anus, right? They are like super reeks. We also remember that Rupert Murdoch didn't like him. None of the folks liked him except the hardcore Tea Party radicals, right? They have been tolerating him and they have voluntarily bent the knee because they realize the base loves him. I believe Rupert Murdoch and several other folks have been waiting for this moment where Donald Trump is weakened and or dies, right? And that's why J.D. Vance is there. And I always want to remind people, J.D. Vance didn't know Donald Trump. J.D. Vance wasn't in Donald Trump's orbit. J.D. Vance, for his entire career, folks, has been groomed by Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel is the one who has always funded J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance's orbit are all the tech pros, all the big money. And J.D. Vance was hand-delivered to Donald Trump. It was like a quid pro quo. Elon's going to give you $300 million. Thiel's going to give you a whole bunch of money. J.D. Vance is the guy. And lo and behold, last week, it was reported, Danielle, who met Rupert Murdoch in a secret meeting?
J.D. Vance.
J.D. Vance. Just throwing it out there.
So speaking of him, I'm jumping ahead on the slides because I was like, well, I was holding it, but this that you pulled up is J.D. Vance going back and forth with Chris Hayes for whatever fucking reason. But essentially, J.D. Vance initially, after calling this is according to the Tennessee Holler, after calling the Wall Street Journal story complete and utter bullshit
on Twitter,
now he claims that he meant it's bogus that they didn't show them the letter with a naked lady drawing Trump allegedly wrote Epstein before they published. Now he tells Chris Hayes he has no idea if it exists. So I mean, here's the back and forth, which is him saying, forgive my language, but this story is complete and utter bullshit. The Wall Street Journal should be ashamed for publishing it. Where is the letter? Would you be shocked to learn that they never showed it to us before publishing it? Does anyone honestly believe that this sounds like Donald Trump? Everyone? Like, what? Does this honestly sound like Donald Trump? The man that said on tape, I can grab a woman by the pussy because I'm a star, and when you're a star, they let you do it. The man that has been credibly accused of sexual assault and sexual harassment by over 24 women. The man that was found guilty of sexual assault and then found to have been guilty of smearing E. Jean Carroll and saying that she was a liar. Does anyone who honestly believes, does this sound like, are you fucking stupid? That was like the dumbest thing to say. So then Chris Hayes says, so this is probably fake too, right? At JD Vance, the whole thing made up, or maybe just the Trump part. I'm losing the thread a little, I gotta say. He's like, okay, so circling back here, the contention is that the book is entirely fake, or Trump being a contributor is fake, or all of this is real, but someone created a totally fake Trump letter and stuck it in the real book.
Can't have it both ways, Danielle. You can't have it both ways on this issue. Usually you can, but as we have said, MAGA is the one that is leading the charge. And I hate saying this because it's a reflection of where we are. This information has been out for 2 decades. We've had women, actual victims, tell their stories. Corporate media could have ran with it. Democrats could have run with it, but they were cowards. The reason why this is in the news right now, folks, is because MAGA is leading it. And because MAGA is leading it, and because we have affirmative action for conservatives, it has given a permission structure for corporate media and Democrats to do the work they should have been doing for the last 20 years. MAGA has been radicalized for 10 years to believe QAnon. QAnon was promoted to help Donald Trump. Donald Trump was supposed to be the hero, the Viking, the avatar, right? Who comes in and cleans what? The deep state. And how does he do that? He will be the one to release the Epstein files. And then they got in power. And then the people who promoted the theories about the deep state became the deep state, like Dan Bongino and Pam Bondi and Kash Patel. But guess what, folks? Donald Trump said, my base will go with me no matter what. And the base said, you promised us the Epstein files. And Donald Trump and Pam Bondi with the Wall Street Journal bombshell, 2 days ago now? Every day feels like 6 weeks. What we know, folks, is that Pam Bondi told Donald Trump in May that he was on the files. And look at the timing. It was late May. A week later, Elon Musk and Donald Trump had their little tiff. And on June 5th on Twitter, what did Elon Musk drop? Bombshell. Donald Trump is in the files, so, which means for the past 2 months, Danielle, the Trump administration has not only been lying to the base and the American public, they have been engaged in a cover-up. And speaking about the cover-up, tell us about what they're trying to do with Ghislaine Maxwell right now.
This is what I was going to say. So good. So right now, okay. It's like, imagine that we're all at the circus, because that's what the fuck this feels like. And Donald Trump is a clown that has all of these spinning plates that are going, and they just keep handing more spinning plates. And he's like, I got it. But everything is starting to go like this, and you're just waiting, crash, crash, boom, boom. So now they're trying to orchestrate this like media escapade around Ghislaine Maxwell with Todd Blanche saying, oh, we're going to interview her again, right? Because she's in jail because they linked her to the sex trafficking. Okay. But they're like, we need red meat for the base. We'll go to Ghislaine Maxwell. We'll have this conversation. And so it's like, looking forward to another productive day tomorrow. Ghislaine honestly answered every question.
It's so weird. Like, it's so weird that the assistant attorney general is having this public conversation with Ghislaine Maxwell's friggin' attorney. What? Like, they can't even. It's so incompetent and so reckless. It's like the Bond villains plotting in real time in the public.
Online for everyone to see. It's like Signalgate times like 1,000. And so I said, okay, Waj is like, okay, clip this. We got to talk about it. And so I said, all right. And then I said, let me see if the people are buying it. So I just like had to like clip this, which is like the commentary underneath this post. And it's like, this person, seriously? Do you know how many times she lied under oath in civil cases? What do you mean you look forward to talking to the biggest recruiter who lured young innocent girls into the lion's den? Evidently, the jury who convicted her didn't find her in the same light. Another person, okay, sure. You know, it was Trump administration that indicted her before, not Biden, not anyone else. It was the Trump administration that determined she was too untrustworthy to offer a deal. So what's changed? What's changed is that Donald Trump, for the past several weeks now, Waj, and I'm like, are we at a month now? How long has this been? I feel like we've been, so Donald Trump he was told back in May from Pam Bondi that he was in the Epstein files.
Yep.
He waited until July to announce that there was nothing to see here, folks. Just keep on walking, keep on walking. So now I'm thinking, this is the longest amount of time that Donald Trump has been being quote unquote, beaten up, being a target in the media and by his own base, right? Usually, how many times does Donald Trump say, here's another red bouncing ball, here's another distraction, just go look the other way, and the media takes the cameras and goes and looks. But it's not working this time. So he sends out these two fucking dodo birds, Gabbard and bobblehead Barbie, look like a deer in headlights when being asked why the Trump administration didn't release in their first term the documents about President Obama supposedly influencing the report about Russia helping Trump. So y'all take a listen and you hear like this. I don't even know what they're doing.
He classified these documents, if I'm not mistaken, Friday of last week, correct?
We released them on Friday of last week, the first tranche, yes.
This isn't the first time that President Trump has been president of the United States. He was president from 2017 to 2021. Couldn't the prior DNI under President Trump have declassified these documents? And why didn't that DNI do that at that time?
I can't speak to what happened there. There were several DNIs under the first Trump administration. President Trump faced many challenges from those who were working in the government who sought to undermine his presidency. That's been clearly detailed. What I can speak to is the fact that this was one of the first things that we started to investigate here within this Trump administration and have released the results upon the conclusion of our investigation.
So just to remind folks that in Trump's first administration, right, I want to remind you what the Supreme Court hadn't done yet, which was make it so that any action that happens under the presidency is now wrapped up in immunity. That happened under Biden. Because of the cases against Donald Trump that they decided, well, if he gets back in office, we'll wrap him in immunity. So the other questions that have been posed all week long with regard to trying to divert attention to Obama is like, what does it actually matter? Because Barack Obama can't be indicted and can't be tried. And even if there was any credible evidence because of what your Supreme Court has done by providing presidential immunity. So what does accountability look like when presidents are now not to be held accountable for anything? Bobblehead Barbie was like, blah, 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 blah.
But it's all bullshit because it was a bipartisan Senate intelligence report in which it was actually the leadership was the Republicans that concluded that Russia did interfere in the 2016 election, and Russia did want Donald Trump to win. Whether or not they succeeded, who knows? But they did interfere. The person who also affirmed it was little Marco Rubio, who is now the Secretary of State and the head of USAID and all the other jobs. They just give it to the one Latino. Yeah. So, and then also, again, a great question. If this was the smoking gun, you were president for 4 years, kind of a big deal. Russia was all up in your first presidency. You were impeached, you literally twice. The first time because you tried to convince try to strong arm the Ukraine, and we have the phone call, and Alexander Vindman and others came and testified. That was before the second time you were impeached, for inciting a violent insurrection. And everyone was saying that you're Russia's puppet and stooge. Maybe that would have been the time, to drop this bombshell. So my fear is, this is my fear. Well, two things I want to connect. Number one, everything that you said is right. The Supreme Court, immunity, who cares? Fascists don't care. If this man gets desperate, and I think he is desperate, like a rabid rat backed into a corner, I would not be shocked. I'm just saying this. I hope this doesn't happen, but I would not be shocked if he sends his Gestapo out to arrest Obama. I will not be shocked. Not just arrest Obama, but like high-profile Democrats, right? Both out of retribution, his vindictive nature, his spite, because he celebrates Festivus every single day, but also out of desperation. Secondly, the distraction isn't working. And why isn't the distraction working? Because, folks, the same day that the Wall Street Journal published the bombshell, Fox News published a massive op-ed. Oh, there you go. Thank you. By Ned Price, of all people. The timing, folks, it wasn't Huffington Post. It wasn't New York Times. It was Fox. It was Fox that publishes an op-ed by Ned Price warning Tulsi Gabbard's accusations are, quote, a dangerous effort to rewrite history and a dangerous distraction. And look at the right side. That's how Fox News promoted it, right? They deliberately made it like kind of a big news, even though it's an op-ed piece. So Rupert Murdoch has the knives out, and he's the one stabby Donald Trump, right? It wasn't the New York Times. Now everyone else is taking, I just want people to watch. They're all taking their cues from right-wing media. Wall Street Journal drops it last week. Wall Street Journal drops 2 more bombshells this week. Donald Trump tries to distract. As soon as he tries to distract, Ned Price gets big front page, awesome, headline coverage. Where? On Fox News. Rupert Murdoch has met with J.D. Vance. I think they're doing a Julius Caesar. They're sharpening the knives, Danielle.
Look, so here's the thing, because it gets better. And I want to get to it. I want to get to it so much, which is because it's this. Because when you say that the knives are out, so we know that Donald Trump has been calling for Jerome Powell's head, right? And every time he does that, the fucking market tanks, his phone blows up, and then he says, I never said that. And then he recants, right? Because chicken's out, right? So him and Jerome Powell, I don't know why Jerome was out with him this week, but oh my God. Folks, take a listen to how Jerome Powell corrected Trump's math, as Charlotte Clymer says, on national television live and called out his disinformation. So Jerome Powell ain't with the shits. Do you know what I'm saying? He is not one of those people that sat with the MAGA cap on the desk in the cabinet meeting, talking and fluffing Donald Trump, as Waj says, with the verbal fellatio to say how amazing you are, because this is Jerome Powell.
So we're taking a look, and it looks like it's about 3.1 billion. It went up a little bit for a lot. So the 2.7 is now 3.1.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, it just came out.
Yeah, I haven't.
Sorry.
1 billion.
Wait. I'll run it again.
So the 2.7 is now 3.1.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, it just came out.
Yeah, I haven't heard that from anybody at the Fed.
Very few things make me laugh out loud. Takes out the glasses.
3.1.
3.2. This came from us?
Yes. I don't know who does that.
Are you including the Martin renovation? You just added
our entire capital.
Yeah, you just added in a third building. Is what that is. That's a third building.
Well,
including
no,
the
but
Martin building.
it's a building that's being built.
No, it was built 5 years ago. We finished Martin 5 years ago.
It's part of the overall work.
But it's not new.
So we're going to
It was so like his face was like, we did those numbers. Where you get those numbers? Let me take out my bifocals.
What you talking about, Willis?
So what you did here is what, by the way, just a reminder, Donald Trump was sued by Letitia James and was supposed to have a payout of nearly $500 million fucking dollars for doing what? Exactly what he did on Fox News just then, which was inflate square footage, make up buildings, real estate fraud is what people call it. And remember, we all thought, oh my God, he's going to go bankrupt. He doesn't have $500 million to put out, right? And then the judge in the case decided, oh, well, maybe he'll just have to pay out like $100 million or something small. He just did with Jerome Powell what he was tried and convicted for. Jerome Powell said, oh, you've added a third building. Oh, yes. That building was built 5 years ago. So it shouldn't be a part of this math.
Danielle, you know what's painful, folks? Imagine if people did this to him for 10 years. Publicly. But they didn't. They all went along with it and said, the emperor, oh, your silk robe is magnificent, as he was running around with his tiny penis. And again, I want to remind people, it's not corporate media, not the libs, not Democrats. It's MAGA leading the charge. And because we have affirmative action for conservatives, because the both sides narrative shifts the Overton window to the right, who is the one that has given permission for our institutions to do what they should have done the entire time? Rupert Murdoch, Wall Street Journal, Fox News, the Nazi Nick Fuentes, and others. I'm looking at the New York Times front page right now. It's all about mocking Donald Trump, the Powell escapade right now, Epstein files. And guess what the New York Times is also talking about? Starvation in Gaza. Oh, they're using the G word. Oh, what just happened? It's because the right wing and Trump's base and everyone else is now talking about it. And guess who else is talking about it? And like, it's the perfect storm, folks. Like I said, starting the show, we have to take the small wins. We have to be like Leonardo DiCaprio, holding on for dear life to the raft. And Rose could have moved her big booty. She had space. But I digress. Authoritarians hate being mocked. Authoritarians hate being corrected. Authoritarians hate people laughing at them because it reveals their smallness. They're all insecure, petty men. They're empty men, right? This is why Trump is the way he is. Confident, secure men do not behave like Donald Trump, right? They're capable of love and empathy and humility. So you had Jerome Powell publicly disagreeing with the most powerful man on earth. You have Donald Trump's own base cracking. And exquisite. South Park creators, folks. You know, I've been talking about Paramount on the show for a while, if I may. Real quick, but let me just connect the dots, Danielle, before I get it. Just keep this up here. This is because it's just so good. We've been talking about Paramount for a while because I've been trying to follow the receipts. Paramount wants to do a merger with Skydance. We're going to talk about it. FCC approved it. I wonder why. Sherry Redstone, the head of Paramount, is perfectly fine throwing the entire CBS legacy, specifically 60 Minutes, under the bus. Donald Trump has been pissed off at 60 Minutes, the crown jewel of CBS News. Why? Because they had an interview, a segment on Kamala Harris. He sued them for billions of dollars, claiming it was fake news. 60 Minutes had a slam dunk case, 12B6. They would have thrown out the Donald Trump's bullshit suit because there's nothing there, right? And plus we have First Amendment and we have free press, New York versus Sullivan. What did Paramount do instead? To grease the wheels of this merger, which again, just last night, the FCC approved. They bribed Donald Trump, gave him $16 million. They also interfered with 60 Minutes on two issues. Trump coverage, Israel-Palestine. Bill Owens, one of the only three executive producers of 60 Minutes' 58-year history, resigned in protest, Danielle, a couple of months ago. Then CBS forcibly pushed out their CBS News chief because she was also not bending the knee. Stephen Colbert, a couple of days ago, called out his own company, Paramount, for bending the knee. A few days ago, guess who gets canceled? Colbert. The excuse? Ratings. Guess who has the highest ratings? Colbert, right? But then 2 days later, Paramount, which is worried about money, gave $1.5 billion to Matt and Trey, the creators of South Park. And the creators of South Park signed the deal, got the money guaranteed. And the next day,
they let that check clear.
Thanks for letting me connect the dots. What did they do the next day? Tell us.
I just, that was so good. And look, I talked about this yesterday on the Danielle Moody show, and I played the video, which then got my video banned for a bit until I cut it out. But my God, it was gorgeous because the mocking, like you said, was a thin-skinned, small man in so many ways. He is so teeny, teeny, tiny, cannot fucking handle it. And so what does he do? He is now attacking The View. He is attacking the people of South Park. He put out a statement saying that it was a fourth-rate show that nobody watched. Really? Is that why it's on its 27th season and got $1.5 billion for global streaming rights through Paramount? I don't think nobody watches it, okay? I think everybody watches it, and you look like a fucking chump this week. You look like a fucking chump. It was so glorious. And so, it's funny because everything that you're saying is right here. How it started, how it's going. After CBS bowed down to the Paramount merger approved, Matt and Trey have entered the chat. On the one hand, extend South Park partnership in $1.25 billion deal.
Guaranteed money.
Guaranteed fucking money. Who makes that kind of money on a cartoon? It's madness. And then they do this shit. So here is Senator Elizabeth Warren, who I'll play for a couple of minutes, just as, again, she's backing up everything that Waj offers.
Approved Paramount's $8 billion merger with Skydance, another giant media company. This could be corruption, and here's the reason why. Maybe you saw that Stephen Colbert's show was canceled last week. Well, just 3 days before it was canceled, Colbert called out Trump and Paramount, which is CBS's parent company, for making a deal that looks like a, quote, big fat bribe. Those were his words. So what's that, quote unquote, potential bribe that Colbert was referring to? Trump filed a sham lawsuit against CBS, but instead of fighting it, CBS's parent company, Paramount, paid Trump $16 million to his future presidential library. So you got to ask, why'd Paramount do that if the suit was, quote, meritless? Well, maybe because they needed Trump to approve their multi-billion-dollar merger, which Trump just did. The appearance of this wink-wink deal basically lets every other company and every other billionaire know that Trump is open for business, apparently happy to accept offers in exchange for favors. On top of that, this deal is bad for competition and could make it more expensive for you to stream your favorite TV shows or movies or sports or whatever. So, just like I've been doing for weeks, I'm calling for an urgent, independent investigation into this Paramount deal to see if this was actually bribery.
Girl, you know it was bribery because let's pull up the timeline, right? The timeline that Waj just walked us through. July 7th, 2024, Paramount and Skydance announced multi-billion-dollar merger. October 31st, 2024, Donald Trump sues CBS over 60 Minutes interview. May 19th, 2025, Senator Warren opens an investigation into whether Paramount is considering bribing Trump for approval. July 1st, CBS parent company settles for $16 million. July 4th, Donald Trump claims he also made a secret side deal with Skydance for another $16 million, right? July 14th, Stephen Colbert calls out the deal. On the 17th, he's fired. On the 21st, Warren extends investigation to Skydance. The 27th, Trump says, I hope I played a major part in it.
And then 24th, last night, FCC approves the merger between Paramount and Skydance. Sheer, naked, quid pro corruption. They all bent the knee. Look who's bending the knee. Corporate America. Look who's bending the knee. Columbia University. We'll talk about in a second. Look who's bending the knee. Corporate law firms. Look who's bending the knee. Republican reeks. Look who's actually resisting. Comedians, cartoons, students, right? The rest of us. And now Rupert Murdoch, but not for a noble cause, because Rupert Murdoch realizes the king is decaying and he wants a new king, the pliable J.D. Vance. But folks, be careful what you wish for. Goes both ways. J.D. Vance, I think, is far more sinister than Donald Trump in the sense that he has absolutely no morals, no fidelity to anything, and he is groomed by the worst people on earth, Peter Thiel and Elon Musk, who are very smart. On the flip side, though, they think that they can just input J.D. Vance and do a replace. I don't think so, Danielle, because MAGA does not respect J.D. Vance.
They don't like him.
They don't like him.
They think that he is, what do they call them? Minos? What do they call it?
Men in name only? Men in name only, yeah.
If they think that they're going to do a bait and switch and they're going to have the base back J.D. Vance, they got another fucking thing coming. But this is how fascism works, because they're not planning on running another election again. Let me just state that very clear. Is that they got Donald Trump, who was the charismatic moron that they could puppeteer for the last 10 years. Now Donald Trump is looking like he's a liability, right? And causing issue. So then what do? You find his replacement, which you have snuck in under the radar for quite some time. He links arms with J.D. Vance, right? As his vice president. They believe, I guarantee you, that motherfucker, Donald Trump, is not making it through the full 4 years. Either his cankles are going to give out, right? Or like the Epstein case is going to blow all the way up or something. But they planted J.D. Vance because they knew that he couldn't win an election on his own. And he's not going to need to, because they've already fixed everything. So all he needs to do is keep quiet and just wait.
Yep.
Go ahead.
On top of that, I think we want to end on this kind of other big news, because it's kind of gone lost, because it's so shameful. Look at what they make you give. It's one of my favorite quotes that I've been using for the past 10 years during the Trump era. It's from the Bourne trilogy. Look at what they make you give. Columbia University, Danielle, one of the most storied Ivy League universities, decided to bend the knee to bad faith right-wing hacks, bad faith right-wing pro-Zionist groups, and Donald Trump, through their own legacy, reputation, and students under the bus. And now, just like Paramount, bent the knee and made a deal, a $200 million capitulation to the Trump administration. And Representative Nadler here, I think, was really accurate, called it a, quote, repugnant extortion campaign. No investigation was ever conducted by the Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights, the single body charged under federal law with investigating anti-Semitism on campus. And that's what's so frustrating. The most anti-Semitic administration allegedly cares about anti-Semitism, combating anti-Semitism. Rather, unlike Harvard, my alma mater has allowed a once highly respected institution to succumb to the Trump administration's coercive and exploitative tactics. Columbia has effectively waved the red flag of surrender, correct, in its battle at the heart of the Trump administration's war on higher education and academic freedom. While Columbia needs to do a better job of protecting its students against anti-Semitism on campus, this disgraceful and humiliating action will not in any way improve the situation on campus for Jewish students. He is correct. Representative Nadler is a Jewish American, takes his faith and identity and community very seriously. Columbia students, faculty, staff, and larger community deserve better than this cowardly decision. Amen.
Amen. Amen. And it's just, more folks saying deeply concerning the capitulation, and we're seeing it left and right. But we have to lift up what has been happening, which is that and I've said this on Blue Sky and I've said it on Substack, if this is the last gasps of free speech, then my God, are we going out with a fucking bang. With South Park Colbert, and even the women over at The View saying, you know what? Fuck you. Because here's the thing.
And Daily Show, which is also on Comedy Central, owned by Paramount.
And The Daily Show. Here's the thing. Because this is where I think, on top of Epstein and the lies that Donald Trump has been seeding and now won't give over to his base, you know what they love more than anything else? Free speech. And when it seems as if Donald Trump is just going around telling people what they can say, when they can say it, blah, 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 even the beer-bellied Old Navy flag t-shirt wearing, MAGA hat, tobacco spitting, MAGA person is like, I get to say what I want and watch what I want. I'm an American. And Donald Trump is saying, yeah, nah. And so I honestly think, too, that this is going to bite them in the ass.
They've lost Nick Fuentes. They're losing Tucker Carlson. I think they have lost Rupert Murdoch. I think the knives are sharpening. I think it's not yet there, but the knives are sharpening, folks. I think Donald Trump is old. I think he's desperate. You see his ratings. I will not be surprised if his health tanks in the next 6 months. But I am worried about the JD Vance presidency. At the same time, I agree with Danielle. They don't respect JD. He's a minnow, man in name only, and he's a man who is perfectly fine throwing his brown wife and kids under the bus. And you know why? The MAGA base also doesn't like him, in addition to him being seen as a complete fraud and a tool of the 1%, because he's got a brown wife with brown kids. And how do I know that? Nick Fuentes said it. So good luck. Be careful what you wish for. But like we said, bringing it back full circle, we have to enjoy the small wins in life, folks. And this week, I've been saying it for a couple of weeks on this show.
It's been a couple of weeks.
Let them fight. Let them fight. Nancy Pelosi's like, bread and butter issues. Nancy, your time is done. Establishment, your time is done. Elites, your time is done. Anyone who wants restoration instead of reformation, your time is done. It's going to be a long walk. It's going to be tough. We don't know if we're going to be alive to see it, but folks, you see it. You see it happening in America. It's going to be wild. And if Trump can go down and we can also take down Vance with it, and MAGA can eat itself, then it's up to us, the majority, to organize in this moment to prepare to not only take them down in legal ways, but also to replace it with something better. And so, folks, this is independent media. Danielle and I do not bend the knee to anyone like fools. We have kept everything without a paywall. Democracy-ish on Danielle Moody's YouTube is without a paywall. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. We want to get her to 30,000. Danielle is on Damn Digest on Substack. I'm so glad she joined up. This has been streaming also on my Substack, The Left Hook, where we have 1,300 people watching on Substack. We got people watching on YouTube. Usually we have people watching on X also, but we'll get that fixed. Folks, we are dependent upon the kindness of strangers. So all the folks who given us this money, like Kathleen just gave us $20. Susan always is amazing. Give it up to Susan, who's just the best moderator. Demetrius, Drea, Ernest, K-Dub, Game Shark, PJ with a 50. That's huge. That'll give Danielle coffee for months.
And at least give his kids some Go-Gurt.
Robert, Bullet the Bunny, Barb, Ernest, like these go a long way, folks. We're dependent upon this. These are the tips that you can do on YouTube as super chatters. Spring, $100. Wow. Spring. Thank you so much. Anyone who's watching, please hit the like button. I know it sounds silly, but that's just how the algorithm works. Hit the like button, subscribe. And then once this is out, which will be in about 1 minute, please share. We will be back Monday at 12 p.m. Eastern time. We also do a midweek check-in on Substack at 3 p.m. Wednesday. And then we do the other show Friday at 12 p.m. Danielle, final word to you.
I just say, folks, you got to hold on to the little wins. You got to keep doing the work, keep spreading the information, keep Epstein on your lips and on your fingertips, and keep sharing the content. But we appreciate you. Have a fantastic weekend. Be safe, be healthy. And as Waj says, don't be a fascist. We'll see you back here on Monday, dear friends. And make sure you check out Waj because he has 87 interviews coming up today.
I'm literally like a fool I should have just taken the next 2 minutes off, but I told Allison, hey, Allison, you want to speak? So in 2 minutes, I'll be talking to Allison Gill. I don't know why. What's wrong with me?
He has a sickness.
Yeah.
Bye, friends.